Week 16, still on site, but I can actually walk through a room today. Last week it was a plinth, and this time there's a floor under my feet, walls tall enough to block the wind, and for the first time I can stand inside a space instead of just imagining where it will be. It's a strange thing. Standing in a room that has no furniture, no people, no habits attached to it. It's pure potential. Whoever works here eventually is going to absorb something from these exact proportions. The width of the corridor, the angle this light comes in at, without ever consciously noticing that they are absorbing something. And yes, this is Architects FM Voice Notes with Kashish, एक सफ़र दिल्ली से दिल तक, इंडिया का पहला woman-led architect podcast which has something to tell. A quick gratitude before I start. Parki, my sister, walked into my site office this week, looked around for 2 seconds and said, आप यहाँ बैठने की जगह भी सोच के रखी होगी ना आपने? That means you've even thought about where you will sit, haven't you, sis? She meant it as a joke about how much I plan actually, but it sat with me because she was right. The most people never even ask themselves that question about the space they spend the most hours of their life inside. That offhand line is basically today's whole episode. Alright, here's something worth sitting with. Out of all your waking hours on any ordinary weekday, the workplace usually claims the largest single share of them. More than your home, if you can count the number of hours you're actually conscious in it. More than any restaurant, any gym, any place that you will call a third place. And yet, it's often the least intentionally designed room in a person's life. We'll spend months choosing a sofa for a living room. We rarely spend 10 minutes choosing where we sit for 8 hours a day. I think that gap is where today's episode lives. Because the room doesn't just hold while you work, it designs you back. Quietly, every single day, whether you ask it or not. Let me walk you through this properly, the way I would walk a client through a site. Think about movement first. Some workplaces let you move. Wide corridors, a walk to get water, a reason to stand up and cross a room. Other box used just to single fixed point for hours. But your body starts to carry that stillness home with you even after you're logged off. Think about where you sit. A desk facing a wall teaches your nervous system something different than a desk facing a window. Neither is right or wrong, but neither is neutral either. Your body is taking notes even when your mind isn't. Think about where you eat. A rushed 5 minute at your desk crumbles at on your keyboard versus an actual room built for pausing. Like these two activities of just eating spaces produces two very different relationships with rest. And think about where you are asked to speak up. The meeting zone. A round table changes what people are willing to actually compared to a long table with one head of it. The furniture itself decides in advance who gets to be heard easily and who has to fight for it. None of this is decoration. This is neuroarchitecture. And I don't mean that as a fancy word for my own speciality. I mean it literally. Like your brain is being shaped by these proportions, this light, this sitting every single day, whether or anyone in that building ever studied design. I have myself felt the difference. A daylit studio, 30 months of it, when the light changes how my afternoon used to look like, and a windowless room elsewhere where my 4 pm thinking felt almost as flat as the lighting of that space. You know, space is only half the grid though. The other axis is people, and this one's is harder to draw because you cannot measure it in feet or inches. Who sits near you changes you. Whose mood you absorb first thing in the morning changes you. Whether the senior person in the room makes space for questions or makes question feel like a risk, that single behavior pattern, repeated daily, quietly, becomes part of who you are and how you measure your own worth. This is the part nobody puts in a floor plan, but it might matter more than the floor plan itself. You can design the most sensorially perfect room in the world, and then one person's chronic impatience in it will undo half the design's intention. Growth, productivity, the version of yourself that shows up at your best. All of it lives at the intersection of these two, the room and the people breathing inside it. Neither one alone is enough to explain why some workplaces makes you better and some places quietly wear you down. So here's what I want you to actually do, not just think about it. Pick one workplace from your past. Not the job title, not the company name, just the room. What does your body remember about how it felt to move through that space? And separately, who was in it? And what did their behavior teach you about yourself without either of you ever saying it loud? Two answers, two people, two spaces about yourself and the timings. See if they match or if they pull in complete different directions. Okay, my first real workplace wasn't an office at all. It was a design studio in architecture college, said the younger me. Messy tables, half built models elsewhere, someone's coffee going cold next to a model they'll redo for like four times before the morning goes up. The space taught me that the work could be loud, physical, collaborative, a little chaotic, and still be deeply focused. The people around those tables critique your work brutally and still fed you at 2 a.m. without being asked. I didn't know then, but that combination, honest people, alive space, quietly became my definition of what good was supposed to feel like. Everything since then has been measured against a studio table. I haven't sat in years now. Of course. The present me, I actually graduated into rooms that didn't look anything like that table. Cubicles instead of communal desk, silence instead of the noises I would learn to think of inside. That specific mismatch studio culture meeting corporate expectations is actually its own whole story. And I'm going to give you its full episode because it deserves that. Not squeeze it in just a paragraph here. What I'll say for today is just this: the sensory shock of that mismatch was real. Nobody warns you that changing rooms can feel like changing personalities. Okay, here's the part that I don't have fully mapped yet, and I would rather say that honestly than pretend otherwise. Someday, I'm not just occupying a room someone else designed. I am the one deciding where the desk goes, where the light comes from, who sits near whom. House of Sachdeva souls. Yes, eventually. This isn't just a nice name. It's me on the other side of this exact cushion, responsible for both axes of the grid at once, the space and the people inside it. I don't know yet what kind of employer I'll be, but I know what kind of employee shaping rooms I have survived. and what kind I have thrived in. Whether I can actually build the second kind on purpose for someone else? Maybe. Genuinely, I will try, but maybe not yet. That's a conversation I want to have out loud with the people who have actually lived both sides of that desk, not solve alone on a mic here. That's one coming when it is ready. I would want to see back to the puzzle episode number 2 for a second. Remember the grid on the back of every piece, A to F, F1 to 7, two coordinates, and yet you need both to find where a piece belongs. Workplace turns out to be the work same way. Space in one axis, people are the other. You can't fully explain what a place did to you, usually just by using one of them. The daylight studio mattered because of the light and because of who stood in it with me. Take one, either of one away, and it stops being the room I keep coming back to. Maybe that's the whole idea worth keeping from today, if nothing else survives the episode. The next time a place changes how you feel about yourself, not just ask what happened. Ask which axis it came from, the room or the people in it. Sometimes knowing that alone tells you exactly what to fix and what to simply walk out of. So that's all today. Space on one side, people on the other, and all of us standing somewhere in the middle of it, being shaped without being noticing. If a room from your past just came to your mind while I was talking, hold on to it. It is telling you something about what you actually need next, not just what you are used to. Next episode, we go straight into the mismatch I skated past today. Studio culture versus corporate expectation, and why our field in particular hands you one language in college and demands another the moment you are hired. And somewhere further down this road, once I've actually sat with the right people about it, I want to bring you on the other side of this desk entirely. What it means to design the room, not just live inside it. The one isn't ready yet, but it's coming. I'm Kashish, this is Architects FM, एक सफ़र दिल्ली से दिल तक, week 16 of 26. The floors is laid, the walls are still going up. Take care. Notice the room where you are sitting in right now, just for a second, because working drawings तो साथ में चल ही रही हैं. All right.